This is the Secretary of State of West Virginia, Kris Warner. Kris, good morning. Thank you for joining us. How are you, sir?
Good morning. What a game last night, huh?
Hey, how tall are you, Kris? We're checking in on heights this morning.
6'4", 280. That's it. I need to take about 40 pounds off. So.
But you are 6'4"?
Yes, sir.
Hey, that's pretty good. That's not bad.
It's offensive guard status right there. Protect the QB.
I was a center and a defensive tackle in high school.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where'd you play your high school ball, Kris?
GW High School.
Oh yeah, Patriot. Yeah,
I had a guy that ended up, Dave DeJarnett, who came up the year behind me, and I didn't get to see a lot of playing time. Dave was just that good. I think he ended up being All-American at WVU. He was quite the player.
He works out of the Eastern Panhandle too.
Yeah, he sure does, and always thought a lot of Dave. He's first-class individual.
A lot of people do indeed. Kris, let's talk business here because
yes,
recently you expressed some frustration over Governor Morrissey's veto of an election transparency regulation. Can you explain that a little bit and whether or not you've been able to meet with the governor since then to iron this out?
Yeah, the frustration came from, rules are a way to, regulate what is happening with, in this case, political action committees. And we worked, the office worked for 5 months before I came on board, 3 months after, through a public comment section, working with the House Government Organizations Committee, Senate Judiciary Committee. There are just plenty of places that if you want to have input, you can have input. Our attorneys, testified in front of those committees. They answered everyone's questions. Everything was going the way that it should go. And this was all about, updates to longstanding common sense campaign finance rules that would increase transparency and, political campaigns. And everything goes the way it's supposed to go. Lots of input. Changes made, and then the governor, literally the 11th hour, vetoes the bill that contained the legislative rules. It's questionable whether the governor even has the power to veto legislative rules. That's up to a joint committee between the House and the Senate, but he does have the right to veto a bill or a piece of legislation. And the way this was done by the legislature, the rules were contained within. So it's a complex process, but we deserve better. The people deserve better when it comes to being able to see what is happening in government, be transparent in government, and that was definitely not the case. To jump forward, and then we can go back and jump into this if you want.
Sure.
We've gone back to the House and we've gone back to the Senate, and we've made changes that the governor's attorneys wanted, and it's sitting on the governor's desk again as we speak, and hopefully the governor will sign it this time.
Has this affected your relationship with the governor?
I mean, the following day, we had the opportunity to speak to 80 Mountaineer Challenge cadets at the Capitol, and he happened to be coming in at the same time they were headed out. We gathered them again, and, we invited the governor to speak with those cadets. So we're working together wherever we can, but this is, really important when you go through the entire process. And then the governor vetoes at the last minute. And the only change was we took the terminology leadership PAC out of the rules package. The definition is still there. But, just frustration, not only by me, it's, the House of Delegates, the state Senate, all the staff members that have worked on this. They're all frustrated and realize that we can all do better than this, and going through an 8-month process and then have it vetoed by by the governor.
In your editorial, you have a line that reads, "Had we been approached, we would have explained the well-researched updates and offered to clarify any ambiguous provisions, but that's not what happened." Did this ultimately come down to a communications issue, Kris?
The attorneys for the governor's office, quite frankly, are in to see our chief of staff and our legal counsel on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis. They had no idea that this was going to happen. I think they have essentially apologized to our staff that this occurred. It's I guess a communication problem between the governor and his staff, and ultimately the governor, and something that is clearly within our authority as it relates to rules and regulations as it relates to election matters and campaign finance matters.
Matt Miller.
When we use the term election transparency, that has been thrown around an awful lot. Can you, without getting too deep into the weeds, I guess, explain what is the transparency that would have been allowed through this rule that has been in question?
This involved state organized leadership PACs, and leadership PACs have been used for personal slush funds, if you will. They can pay for almost anything: travel, expenses, entertainment. And all we were trying to do was set out the do's and don'ts for someone that is creating a state leadership PAC. The second thing that it did would have limited the coordinated expenditures between a leadership PAC and a candidate committee. So you can give a maximum contribution to a candidate committee of $2,800 and then turn around and do the same for a candidate's leadership PAC. So there need to be contribution limits. They need to be adhered to. There needs to be reporting of this. And so this was involved state leadership PACs and their relation to the candidate committee PAC that all candidates have.
I noticed a line as well in what you had written saying, "I wonder who is attempting to have their voices heard in our political process that cannot under our existing or proposed rules." What do you mean by that?
Well, the governor had that was in response to the governor's quote of, "It's imprecise and unwieldy regulation of political action committees that will likely cause confusion for those attempting to have their voices heard in our political process." And that question was back to the governor. Who is it that's trying to be, heard that's not being heard under the existing or proposed rules? And that's a question the governor needs to answer. I think it works for everybody else in the state, all other statewide candidates, all legislative candidates. It seems literally that the only person that has a problem with this is the governor.
John Bodwell.
Is there a way around it? I mean, are you guys reproposing stuff? Are you going to negotiate with the governor and his team to put together something that can be done next time that will meet all the needs and where the governor will feel that it is not, confusing, that it does what it's supposed to do?
Yeah, we've already done that. In fact, just the way the legislative process is, there was only 1 hour to get this done. And we removed the term leadership PAC. The definition is still there. The governor's attorneys and staff have agreed to that. The House and Senate attorneys and staff have agreed to that. And that is what's sitting back on the governor's desk. The problem here is you don't know what's in that language. The public doesn't know what's in that language. And if this would have been something that dealt with our schools or health care, something that affects all of us on a daily basis, I realize this only affects those that are involved in the political process and have committees that have to be filed with the Secretary of State. But this is not good government when those decisions are made literally in the last hour and the public does not have a chance to comment on them. They had a chance for 8 months and did comment and did have input into the process. They don't now because of the governor's veto.
Well, anything that's a part of our political process affects all of us. I mean,
Right.
any little thing, be it child care, be it foster care, be it the prison system, the schools, any function that the state has, everybody's affected a little bit differently. But all of us, anything that has to do with our political process affects all of us, because that's how, people get elected and people do make the laws that help or hurt our state.
You're exactly right. And people have a right to know that if you know the system and you're involved with a candidate, that you can make a contribution twice what everybody else can, because you've been invited to make a contribution to a leadership PAC in addition to the candidate committee. So now you've given $5,600 during an election cycle when everybody else can only give $2,800. And then those two committees can coordinate. Again, this set out to regulate the coordination between those committees, provide limits, and then make them available for everyone to see and make this portion of government transparent.
We're talking to Secretary of State Kris Warner. Did you have a follow-up there, Johnny?
Well, yeah, what I was going to ask, sir, is there anything else you think needs to be done to make the process smoother, to make the process more transparent? I mean, besides this, is there anything else that you would have proposed that the legislature try to enact?
On this particular issue, the rules package covered that. We have 11 bills right now that we have sponsored, if you will. We can't sponsor a bill in the legislature, but support would probably be the better terminology. But it originated in our office. So there are a whole host of bills that we're supporting, trying to get through, push through. 10 of those are, focused on legislation. I think there are a couple on the business side of the house to just, again, tighten the process up, streamline the process, and make it more transparent. The thing that could have helped here, again, I just want to make sure it's clear, is that the governor's staff could have walked across the hallway. It's 25 steps, and had the conversation with us. Again, they're in the office on a regular basis. They knew exactly what we were doing during the process, and that quite frankly, it never occurred.
Do you think this was a power stamp?
I don't know. We'd have to ask the governor for more details. Again, he cited First Amendment concerns, and was very vague, but there was no context provided as to why he made the veto, and it left everybody scrambling to try to reach a compromise. Again, that was not available for the public to see in the daylight.
I want to ask you about a press release you sent out yesterday about 2 Cabell County candidates that were indicted for election fraud. This is not something you see every day. This is candidates now. It's not people who are voting improperly or manipulating rolls. This is candidates. What happened here?
And the candidates were candidates for the, in Cabell County for the county commission, and it turns out that the grand jury handed down a 5-count indictment by the Cabell County grand jury. The 2 people, Jan Height King and Kimberly Maynard, essentially lied on their certificates. And again, these are accusations. Everyone has a chance to their day in court. but they submitted false information on their certificates of announcement. And, that's against the law. It carries a penalty of up to a year in jail and a fine. Our office investigated, led the investigation. The Attorney General office had an investigator that was served as the lead investigator. We managed the investigation. And when that information was provided to us, that they basically lied and said they served in a magisterial district of the county that they did not live in, and they conspired to do that. There were two people, so there was one count of false swearing, one count of aiding and abetting the commission of false swearing, and one count of conspiracy to commit false swearing, in Cabell County Circuit Court. So we turned all that over to the special prosecutor. They presented to the grand jury, and it led to an indictment. So this will go to trial now for two candidates that are accused of conspiring and lying on a certificate of announcement.
Typically, how do you become aware of a situation like this to even begin an investigation?
Well, our office requires that you file a sworn statement. You have to put a statement in writing. We get so many calls of people, alleging things verbally, and you got to have something more than that to go on before we're going to expend the taxpayers' dollars on an investigator. And we received information from multiple sources. So we encourage people, if they see something that they believe is not right, to report that, and hopefully they are able to put their name at the bottom of the page and swear to the information they're providing us so that we can get started on an investigation.
Matt Miller.
I noticed in the article that this was for the primary election of 2022. Do you know, did either one of these ladies win and advance, or did they fall in that primary?
Before my time at the Secretary of State's office, but I believe they were taken off the ballot. But these things take time. I know we've been asked, why this was 2022 and it's now 2025. And we have to follow every one of these out to the end. We turn information over to the prosecutor, and it's up to them to decide whether they're going to prosecute. The frustrating thing is we actually have, and I've got to be careful about, what I say, and I've got to be very general, but, we've turned situations over, what we maybe believe is illegal voting to prosecutors, and they don't think that it's important enough with everything else that they're doing to move forward. So we will try to see if we can take it up in another county or a special prosecutor, because we all know how important our elections are and every one of our votes are. And our office will follow these to the end, even if the investigation takes 3 years to present the information to the prosecutor, is what's the case here.
Jonathan?
Do you run across a lot of election fraud in this state? Are there a lot of things that rise to the level of criminality, or is there just, sometimes people just make mistakes? There's just, stupidity on people's parts.
I don't know that you would say a lot. Honestly, I think the guy that was in office before me for the last 8 years really kept a focus on clean elections. And that all, I believe, starts with clean voter rolls. So to have fair, honest, safe, and secure elections, that's really important. And the office removed over 440,000 names. At the same time, those are people that have died, have moved out of state, convicted felons. And at the same time, and we have continued on this line of thinking of making sure that we register every high school senior that's eligible to vote by the next election. And we've added about 130,000 high school seniors in the last 8 years. And we're continuing that, as we speak.
How many, just out of curiosity, how many registered voters roughly are there in the state of West Virginia?
You've got about 1.2 million So you can see what that would do to your numbers on election night when they're reporting what percentage of the voters showed up. 8 years ago, that was not a very accurate number. So we at least have a much more accurate number now and get a sense of how many people are participating in our elections.
Do you think that nationwide is an issue when they're showing low voter turnout? Do you think having not cleaned up voter rolls makes us look worse as a country as far as participation?
Absolutely, and there are many states that just don't feel that this is important. We see it as, in this case, of 440,000 names that have been removed. That's 440,000 opportunities for fraud to occur. And we've come a long ways of the day of President Kennedy being elected and carrying this state, and the open vote buying that occurred in the process, and we've all seen it and heard about it. I'm closer to southern West Virginia, but it's happened in many counties in every geographical region of the state. And this is the way. Carrying this information to the prosecutor is the way you send a message that we're not going to tolerate any funny business when it comes to filing campaign finance reports, or in this case, filing your certificates of announcement. And we're going to call it out every time we get a chance.
Secretary of State Kris Warner has been our guest here on the program. Final thoughts are yours, Kris. I've got 30 seconds.
We're headed to Lewis County on the road right now. We're honoring about 160 voters that have voted in every election in the last 50 years. So this is new for me. I haven't had a chance to do this yet, but looking forward to meeting with 160 or so patriots in Lewis County that have done their duty, and I'm sure many of them have fought for the country and fought for the opportunity to allow the rest of them to vote in every election for the last 50 years.
Kris, thanks a ton, man. I appreciate your time this morning. Say hello to that Mike Queen guy for me.
Hey, we'll do it. Thanks again, sir.
Have a great day.